Hey there, this is Angela. Thanks for stopping in. Welcome or welcome back. In this video, I'm going to give you guys a weekly garden update. Stick around. It's Saturday, April 3rd, and I kind of decided at the last minute to get some sunflower seeds started indoors. This will be my first year growing sunflowers, and I kind of went a little overboard. I'll show you all the varieties that I got. This one's from High Mowing. It's called Golden Rays Sunflower. It's a hybrid. The next one was from Seed Savers Exchange. This is Giant Primrose. And the package is kind of bare. Just tells the name of the plant. Here's some other packages from Seed Savers. This one's Tara Humara White Seeded. That one's pretty. I love all those ragged, ruffly petals on that. That's beautiful. I can't wait to see that one grow. And then my last one from Seed Savers is Arikara. And this one also has sort of those raggedy little thin petals on it. It's beautiful. And this one is from Urban Farmer, my first time buying seeds from Urban Farmer. It's called Velvet Queen. I'll try to find a picture of that to insert. It's not yellow or golden orange like most sunflowers. It's a reddish color. It also looks really beautiful. And then the last one I have is from Baker Creek. It's called Mongolian Giant. And you can kind of get an idea here. They're not kidding when they say giant. I can't wait to see this one. They say that it gets 14 feet tall and that the heads are 16 to 18 inches across. So that's pretty giant, I would say. So I'm going to get these seeds in and tend to them indoors. Sunflower seeds aren't the only thing that I went nuts on this year. I've been feeding my seed addiction like crazy for the 2021 season. I think that's probably due to a number of factors. One, I'm really developing like a serious seed addiction. Like I think my husband needs to step in and take my credit card away. That could help. And two, there was such a run on seeds throughout last year and then into this year. Everything was sold out. You had to keep checking back to see if the seed companies were even accepting orders and if they had what you wanted. So maybe part of that was, oh, I better get every seed I ever wanted right now. I don't know, there might have been some of that. Probably another factor is that my garden space has expanded a little bit. So I have a bigger capacity out there to put plants. So that's probably some of it too, but I think it's primarily I just have a major seed addiction. So I'm just about finished planting here. And the reason I decided to get my sunflowers started a little early as opposed to like any of the other flowers that I'm growing is because I've read that sunflowers can take a long time to fully mature and produce flowers, and that is just something that I do not want to miss. So we are zone 6A. We have a decent growing season. It's not extremely long, but it's not terrible. But I do want to make sure that I get a chance to see these bloom. So that's the main reason why I'm starting early. I think another reason is I'm just kind of itching to do more seed sowing. And at this point, the only thing left to do is wait until our last frost happens and get those seeds out in the ground, which is actually the majority of my seeds have to wait until last frost. So indoor sowing, I was kind of done, and I guess maybe I just wanted to continue on because I enjoy it so much. So I ended up just wrapping it with some plastic wrap and sitting it in this windowsill. This window gets a southwestern exposure, so it gets pretty good sun, and it should be enough to heat this up enough for germination. If not, I have got a better window. I'm just using it for something else right now. I can switch that around. One other thing I'm going to do today is go ahead and get some of my veggie beds prepped with some compost. I don't have a whole lot of compost, so I'm going to have to pick and choose which beds get it and which don't, and maybe spread it kind of thin, but I'm working on upping my compost game. It's just sometimes hard to come by like a mass abundance of materials for it. So I'll make the best with what I got. One bed that's definitely going to get some compost is this raised bed here. Right now it has some rosemary and some sage in it, which are going to come out and get relocated, because what I'm going to put in here are cabbages and onions, and that's going to happen very, very soon. So I'm going to start with this one first. So a lot of my compost wasn't quite as decomposed as I thought it was going to be, but I do have a lot of decayed coffee grounds, ones that have been in there for months. And since I already have shredded leaves on this bed and have had for months, what I'm doing is just to mix in a small amount of the coffee grounds. So that should give it a good balance of carbon and nitrogen. Still very much trying to figure out the whole compost thing. It's something that I've just started doing the past maybe 3 years-ish. And from everything I've read, you want like the right quote-unquote ratio of carbon to nitrogen, so browns to greens. And the way that I'm applying that in my own garden is that the leaves, all those shredded leaves, make up the carbon, and any kitchen scraps, coffee grounds, make up the nitrogen. And I've read different ratios, but the one that I kind of have taken to heart most was one that was 3-to-1 carbon to nitrogen. So that's kind of the one that I follow. Like I said, I'm still pretty new, so I'm kind of still feeling out what'll get me the best results. Like with everything in gardening, I strongly encourage each gardener to do their own looking up, get information from all kinds of sources, and then figure out what'll work best in your own garden. So I don't want to tell you to try something and then it doesn't like work out in your garden. So this is my approach and what I've been doing for the past year or two. And so far it seems to be working pretty good. So I'm going to kind of stick with that. So that's it for this segment, and I'm sure I'll be back tomorrow because there's always something to do out in the garden, especially this time of year. It's Monday, April 5th, and today I'm going to get some of my cabbage seedlings in. I never up-potted these, so they're still in their same little cells that I planted the seeds. I don't know if that'll set them back or not, but we'll find out. I've struggled to grow cabbages successfully in the 3, maybe 4 previous years I've tried, and this is primarily due to 2 factors, I believe. The biggest one are the dreaded cabbage moths, and I just can't battle them successfully. So I've got some mosquito netting on order for this bed where these cabbages are. But until it gets here, I'm putting these on. I know that might seem like overkill, but it's like, by golly, this is gonna be my year for growing cabbage successfully. So luckily we have a lot of these little containers in the kitchen, and they're perfect for these seedlings at this size. So I don't know how long it would take for like cabbage moths to show up and realize that there's cabbages here now. But I am not taking any chances. And the other factor that I think has kind of hindered me growing successful cabbages is maybe I just didn't pay enough attention to them. Like neglect, plain and simple, on my part. So shame on me, but that will not be the case this year. So I was able to get 10 seedlings in this bed using the proper spacing from, the seed packet. Sometimes I'm guilty of overcrowding the seedlings, but I'm doing it right with these. I want to do everything right, and hopefully I'll get some cabbages this year. Cabbage is one of my absolute favorite foods, so I am determined. I'm gonna do everything I need to do. So this is what we're looking like. I've got 10 seedlings in, and I've got a number of seedlings that I could still plant. So I'm gonna find a space to tuck those in, like here and there in different beds. So that's all for today, and I'll probably have another update tomorrow. It's Tuesday, April 6th, and time for another garden update. I got 2 more of my pepper seedlings transplanted into these big black pots, and this is where they're just going to grow all summer. I'm still at the point where we haven't probably reached our last frost, and even if we have, the nighttime temps are still too cold to put the peppers out overnight. So they'll just spend daytimes out here until it's warm enough to be out all the time, and then they'll just grow forever in these pots. And my cabbages seem to be doing okay. I was a little worried about them getting too hot and kind of baking under these little pots. So I'm periodically kind of airing them out. And the pots aren't sitting firm into the soil or anything. There's enough room for some airflow, and they're not completely clear. They're a little bit opaque, so hopefully it won't create a total hot greenhouse effect for my cabbages, which wouldn't like that at all. But I'm continuing to check on that, and hopefully my mosquito netting will be here soon. And I did get some onions in this bed. Got some along that back section there. Those are Ailsa Craig. And on the other side, I did another row. Those, I don't know if you can see them. Those are called Walla Walla. So we'll see how those do. And then down the middle, just in like this half of the bed and over in between the cabbages, I did some bok choy called Toy Choy. So we'll see. I hope that I'm not overcrowding that bed, but I can always like thin it out, I guess. I'm not sure. Eat the onions early. We'll see how that goes. Trying to make the most of my space. We have, we have a bit of property here, but as far as actual growing space that I can put protective measures on, it's really just, in these 6 raised beds that I have for now, at least. The garlics are still going fine, of course, to be expected. And in my leafy greens bed, I've gotten a few little seedlings to sprout up, but nothing really major yet. They're still very, very tiny. Mostly what I've noticed is the mustard greens kind of taking off like crazy. I've never grown these before, and the seedlings are really popping up, and I'll have to thin those out. Other than that, I've got like 1 kale seedling and a few little lettuces that are very, very small, like those mustard greens. We've got the lumber to frame out for our greenhouse pad here. It still needs to be set in. We just kind of laid it out rough just to see how big a space we're talking about here. It'll have to be dug in, except for in this corner back there. We may have to raise it up a little bit. So we'll get into that. And I'm kind of getting the feeling that the greenhouse may not happen as soon as I was wanting it to. I don't care. As long as we get it done this year, it's fine by me. So that's it. And I'll probably have an update tomorrow. It's Wednesday, April 6th, and today's garden activities consisted of getting some more onions in. And I put a bunch of them in this bed with my leafy greens, just kind of along the edges down each side. And I still had a few seedlings left over, so I stuck them in the end of this bed. And ultimately this year, this bed is going to house some melons and squash. So they'll have to be down at the far end, or anywhere except for this, little section here on the end. And I transplanted my 2 dill seedlings and 2 borage seedlings. So they'll just live in those pots all summer. They should be fine staying out. They've been staying out every night pretty much for a while now. And if we get a frost predicted, I can cover them up pretty easily. So it shouldn't be any issue. So that's it for today. And I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there's a bunch of frogs. That high-pitched whirring kind of noise. Not the machinery that's going on at the place behind us, but April is frog season here. They kind of take over our pond, and we end up with a lot of little tadpoles. Like, the pond is full of them. And then we have frogs later. But at night, the sound is so loud. We can sleep with the windows open because the temperatures are nice and just right, not too hot, not too cold. And the sound of the frogs is so loud. I totally love it. Do you hear it? I hope it sounds off on the video because it's kind of cool. So that's it for today, and I'm sure I'll have another update before the week's over. Hey there, it's Thursday, April 8th, and today's update's going to be real short. It's been overcast and raining pretty much all day, so I haven't done very many garden-y type things today. I'll show you what I did do though. It's inside. I'm trying something new with my pepper plants this year since the seedlings are doing so well and I have enough to some extras to experiment with. 3 of them I pruned. So I just chopped off right at the center stalk there, about 2 sets of leaves up. And from everything that I've read, this is a good thing to do, and this is what you should do. I just never have done it, probably because I really haven't ever had this much progress with good pepper seedlings before. So I have some that I can afford to experiment with, and so I did that with 3 of them. And we'll see how it goes. It's supposed to make them more robust, just like bush out, and therefore more branches, more leaves, and more peppers. That's the whole goal. So I'm gonna try that this year and see how that goes. Other than that, the seedlings really didn't go out all day. This little group here sitting on the dryer went out because they're getting too tall to go under the grow lights. They come all the way up here and start touching the lights, which it's not hot because they're LED, but I'm not sure if they should be that close to the lights. So they did go out and they got some overcast sun. So hopefully that was enough for them for their daily light needs. So that's it for this week. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I appreciate that. I hope you found this helpful or at least interesting. And if you did, if you would give it a like and subscribe, I greatly appreciate that. Until next time, this is Angela signing off with a friendly reminder to get out there and play in the dirt.